The questions we wrestle with as Christians about who God is, how do we live out our faith, what is the Bible, what is the truth of the Bible, what are we supposed to believe, how are we supposed to live? There are really big, deep questions that we ask each other, that we ask God, that we wrestle with ourselves. And that's why the Cultivate podcast exists, to help us go deeper in our understanding of who God is, His Word, and the way that He's called us to live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Cultivate podcast with the Grove Church. I'm Charlie Lofton. I'm the lead pastor there, and I am here with Bagel.
Hello.
Bagel Boone. I think we just go Bagel.
The Bagel Boone sounds nice.
Bagel Boone
like
is kind of
Cher. Yeah.
Bagel.
Does anybody know Cher's last name?
No.
I did think this last Sunday you called out for me and you said Bagel, and I immediately turned around and I was like, "That's how you know."
Yeah, that's how you know. That's right.
The name is stuck.
It's not just a bit that we do during the podcast.
Nah, the Bagel.
Yeah. Oh, he's talking
to me.
He's talking to me. Creative director, podcast producer, great friend, hat aficionado.
This is one of my classics that I wear all the time, I feel like.
Yeah, you actually have I feel like you have a series of Onyx hats.
So they recently launched, I don't know if they got a new merch person or something, but they just like stockpiled with tons of really awesome stuff. And so Onyx has been emerging on the scene in Northwest Arkansas, not coffee-wise, merch-wise.
Oh, okay.
Coffee, obviously well-established, but like they've never had good merch, in my opinion.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden, but it's fun because they only have certain hats at certain stores.
Okay.
So you're compelled to go to the different ones and find the ones that you like.
Am I compelled?
I am.
You are compelled.
You should be.
I should be compelled. No, I mean I have enough. I have enough Hog and Disney merch. I don't know that I need. I don't know. I need another third merch.
For a man who doesn't drink coffee, you don't need an Onyx hat.
Coffee, correct. All right, so we are months now, I think, into a series through the parables.
Yes.
Been working our way through them. Done some Q&As to kind of make sure we understand how it's going, and I keep going back, and I'm like, no, there's still a lot more to do.
More parables.
And this one is called the parable of the workers in the vineyard. And I feel like I need to say this. No one will care. When I was a teenager, in my church growing up.
Did you work in a vineyard?
Our youth group would do puppets for the kids ministry.
Okay.
And there was this audio sketch that, you would have the puppets, and you weren't having to do the voices. You were just pantomiming. Yeah. And it was on this parable, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was just really, really funny.
Were there vineyards for you to walk through, or were you the workers?
We were the workers. Okay. We were the workers.
Okay.
Like there was one person that was he was the main guy, and then he had an assistant, and then there were all the workers coming through, and it was just it was just workers in the cornfield was what it was called, and
that's different than a vineyard.
Yeah, and
I guess more contextual to El Dorado.
Like, no one here, no one's listening. Was like, man, I remember doing puppet shows in the '80s, and I probably know what that is. Like no one, but to me, it's like I hear this, and I'm just, I think it was.
There's someone out there.
They had my brother, but he doesn't listen to the podcast. Anyways, and so anytime I hear about this. I hear the voices, and they had Southern accents. I mean, this is what's going through my brain.
We should get that set up for Grove Kids here. I feel like if we got you and like Jason, like a group of animated people, they would eat it up.
Puppet shows?
Yeah.
It's important though. Can we do this? This is only for the people on YouTube. It's important. So you got my hand here flat.
Yeah.
If you're really going to do a puppet, then you have to be able to do it where you just
your thumb.
Your thumb is moving, because most people do puppets like this,
and I don't.
Which is not how you talk. You talk like this, just your chin. But it's actually that's.
Yeah.
It's not yeah. It's not that. It's not that. Your
that's dexterity.
Your fingers are moving.
I know.
Your fingers are moving, and the lady that was in charge of the puppet, she would, if you wanted to become, to be in it, right? Part of your training was she would put 2 hymnals on top of your hand,
And you would just be
and then that's all that you could do.
anyone watching or listening, you should actually try it because that's pretty hard to
It's actually
do.
really hard to move your thumb up and
You doing it
down,
so
and to
fast.
leave your fingers where they don't move up and down.
I can't do it as fast as you're doing it.
Right. So this you have to be able to, talk as quickly as you need to talk, right?
Interesting. All
Yep.
right.
Puppeteer. All right. The parable of the workers in the vineyard, Matthew chapter 20, starting with verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. "These who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day." But he answered one of them, "I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last."
Ooh, that's a spicy line there at the end.
Yeah.
Are you envious because I'm generous?
Yeah, so make sure we just kind of understand the basic framework here, and then I want to get your impressions of
Okay.
what's happening here. So a denarius is essentially what would be considered a day's wage. That's
Sure.
just that was considered a day's wage. We talked about that a little bit, and we
A
talked about the
denarii.
unmerciful servant, right? And so it's just what you would expect for a day. So you've got a landowner who needs his land work, and you've got a group of what we would now call, we've been called for a while, day laborers.
Okay.
People who don't have jobs per se, but if there is work that is needed, they will hang out in a certain part of town, and wealthy people who need work for that day go to this place, and they can hire them for the day, and we'll pay them a day's wages at the end of the day. There's still
Mhm.
things like that happen now. It seems controversial now to say this because of the way that our politics works, but very often it'll be like at a Home Depot or whatever, and
Mhm.
there will be day laborers hanging out there. "Hey, I can do painting or cleaning or
Yeah,
whatever,
you make
pay
good
for the
money doing
day
that.
and pay me in cash at the end of the day," and then you go on with your day, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the same basic situation. So it's important for us to understand as we put our mind around this kind of, okay, that's the nature of this. And if this landowner does not come and pay them, it's not like, "Oh, well, it's okay. I only expect to work 3 or 4 days a week. I've got plenty of money otherwise." I
Mhm.
mean, this is, I get to eat tomorrow
Mhm.
because I work today. I mean, these people did not have savings accounts. They
Right.
were they were day to day, because they didn't have jobs, so they're day to day and eating. So that is the basic framework of this story. Okay, what are your general impressions from the parable?
Seems like he does have a lot of money to give.
He's wealthy for sure,
It's not like he's being tight with
right?
I can only hire this amount of people. Um and it seems kind of funny that he keeps his question is why are you all just standing around doing nothing?
Right,
Like I guess it was probably cultural that they wouldn't just hop in, but also funny that he's like, well, why aren't you working?
right. It's
That
well,
interaction seems funny to me.
well. Here's a question that I have, because it seems like he goes out there first thing in the morning
Mhm.
and just sweeps everybody up
Yes.
and says, you guys all come and work for me," and then he goes back and there are more people there.
Yeah.
And he goes back again and there's people there. It doesn't seem like he goes there, there's 10 guys there, he grabs 5, comes back later, grabs 2 more, and then
No.
like
He's like,
he's taking everybody who's
yeah.
there. And so it seems like that there are people that, if you want to be there, you need to be there by 6.
They're just hoping
That
there was
but
more work.
Right, and that there were people that weren't showing up until 9,
Right.
and then there are people that were showing up sometime between 9 and noon,
Yeah.
and sometime between noon and 3, 3
Yeah.
and 5,
Right.
that people were. And so there is a sense in which I think if you understand what's going on in the story, that is not only were these people not working the full day and got the full wage, there's
Didn't.
something negative to be thought about them by the fact that they were out there at 5. The interactions. Wait, what are you still doing out here at 5? It's
Yeah.
not like they had been there since 6.
No.
They had only been there at most since 3.
The early bird did not get the worm.
Right. And so you could say
He's letting the laziest still
that
get an opportunity.
that these people also have some laziness to them. It's not
Mhm.
just that, man, we were out here all day and nobody
Right.
hired us. There was something that was preventing them. Maybe it wasn't laziness, but there
Mhm.
was something that was preventing them from being, to use your words, the early bird.
Well, it does seem like in that, even you giving the context of day workers today, I work for a construction company. There's a lot of people that will do that kind of stuff because they have crews of who knows how many, and they're working all around Northwest Arkansas. So
Right.
there are people that'll just come in for the day and help out.
Okay, I don't know that we can just kind of just blow past that, because someone who didn't know you, or maybe even someone who does know you, like, you
I
just
work
kind
for a
of
construction
casually saying,
company.
I work for a construction company.
Yeah, that's confusing
That's I don't
and
think
not entirely accurate.
I don't think I
I
think the way that most people would take that phrase is
said
not
I
what you
work on the
mean by
job
it.
site.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't work on the job site. I do social media for a custom home builder.
Oh, there you
And
go.
so
There you go,
I
which is
am out on the job site often
taking
and
pictures and
taking
videos.
pictures from literally laying the slab to the closing day. And so I'm interacting with these workers all the time
See, I know you well enough
to
to
know
my
what I meant by that.
brain put all of that together really fast. I
Sure.
knew exactly what you meant,
Yes.
but I did also hear the phrase, I work for a construction company, which I
Yeah,
was
and he's
like,
not really a construction he's a
but
home builder.
even still, if you said I
Anyways,
work for a home builder,
yeah.
people would be
Yeah.
okay.
Anyways,
Anyways.
all of those crews start so early.
Oh yeah.
Like, and a lot of it probably is temperature wise.
Hmm.
You don't want to be out there in the dead of day with the sun beating down on your backs.
Right.
So there's no shot that they're going back to see if there's any other extra helpers in the
Right.
middle of the day.
Right.
So you have to be the early bird.
Right. And so the question then for this, Jesus is talking about what the kingdom of heaven is going to be like.
Mhm.
And he describes it this way, and I think we can very easily say that the owner of the vineyard is
I feel like
God.
he's in retirement.
He's God. It's God. It's
Yes.
God. Okay.
Yes.
It's God. Okay. And so we learn from this that God is very generous. He is inviting people all day long and is
Mhm.
very generous.
Well, and this part feels extremely similar to our culture today that I would be very angry if I was making the same amount as like the intern
Right.
that was only there a little bit and didn't have as much responsibility. Like that's a very similar sentiment that we could relate to
Or
today.
just think that, like, you're like, think about maybe summer jobs that you had, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm working at a grocery store, I'm working at this fast food restaurant. I worked 10 hours, I earned $10 an hour, I got $100.
Mhm.
This other guy came in at the very end of my shift and worked 1 hour.
Yep.
Okay, $10 for that 1 hour.
Right.
No, he got $100 as if he'd worked the whole shift. Like, your brain kind of goes,
You would quit.
that's not that's yeah, it's not fair.
Uh-huh.
The complaints that these guys have,
Relatable.
it is a reasonable
Uh-huh.
complaint.
Yeah.
If fairness is a thing, right? Okay, especially I think for us. I mean, they think more in terms of day wage.
Sure.
I work a day, I get a day. I don't know, they had an hourly
Mhm.
rate mentality, but especially for us with an hourly rate mentality where it's like you get paid
You know.
by the hour. I worked 12 hours, you worked 1 hour, we come away with the same wage.
People who aren't good at math can still do that math.
Right. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. I am
Yeah.
being treated poorly.
Yeah.
But we have to figure this out. Who is
So
the
it
person that starts in the metaphor? Who is the person that works at 6?
who is he talking to though? That's not in there.
If you go back to the previous chapter, we have Jesus talking to his disciples. He's
Okay.
talking to his disciples and telling them what the kingdom is going to be like.
Okay.
So, who is the person that works at 6? Who is that person?
The disciples would probably think them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like they're the ones that have been with Jesus this whole time. They're doing everything.
here's the problem and again, this is in a post resurrection. We talk about this a lot, right? A
Mhm.
post resurrection, post Paul Christian Protestant evangelical theology
Yeah.
and how we understand what salvation is and the grace and generosity of God. There is nobody who is working all day
Sure.
and getting a fair wage. No one is getting a fair wage.
Yeah.
In fact, Romans 6:23,
Mhm.
we talk about the difference between wage and gift, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's what you earn from sin is death, but what you get from God is a gift.
So really
And so
Romans 3
and
whatever,
and
all of
so
sin.
yeah, once you get to the people who are getting more than what they deserve,
Mhm.
well that's all of us.
Yeah.
And some people, I don't know if you ever heard, oh man, that person kind of came through in the 11th hour.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard the phrase 11th
Yes.
hour? This is where that comes from.
Yeah.
Okay. And so someone who shows up late just in time.
Yeah.
And we'll use that in a spiritual context. We like to talk about a deathbed confession,
Ugh.
right? It's like I was terrible my whole life. And
And
as I
then
was dying, I asked to receive Jesus. Oh, they came to Christ at the 11th
okay, well
hour.
this feels more like a Pharisee type complaint.
Right. The question is, I think the thing I think we need to understand is that we're all 11th hour
Yeah.
people. And so the natural thing, and we're going to look at some parables a little bit later in the next couple of weeks that are more explicit here and kind of Jews versus Gentiles, right?
Mhm.
The Jews got asked first and were not completely and totally faithful. And then the Gentiles came in later,
Mhm.
right? We're invited in later, and the first group represents the second group. There's a little bit of that in the prodigal son that we've already looked at. The guy,
Mhm.
man, I've been here the whole time. Why are you being gracious to this person? And so I think there is some of that there of just kind of like, hey, I've been a faithful follower of the God of the Old Testament my whole life. And now you're just going to let in sinners and tax collectors and Gentiles and all these people in here. And it's like, why are you being so kind and gracious to them? Your kindness and grace to them is a slap in my face of
Mhm.
someone here who has been faithful the whole time.
So to them this would have been more like the Jew Gentile rather than the Jew who turned around his life in his old age.
Yeah, I think that's probably how they would have initially taken it.
Mhm.
Someone who has been faithful to God for their whole lives or for generations. My family has been
Right.
faithful to
Culturally it has
God
been there.
for so long, and now you've got these latecomers,
Mhm.
and your generosity and kindness to them is actually a slap in my face. I think that is how we should understand that they would take it.
Mhm.
But I think as we look at it, we should not place ourselves in the role of the people who got there first.
Right.
Right? Because you
Mhm.
could theoretically come in and say, well, I came to faith when I was a kid and baptized when I was a kid and never really rebelled against God and was faithful in my youth group and went on staff with a college ministry, and then I've been a pastor forever, and I've been a faithful Christian now um, for almost 50 years now.
Right.
And how, like, I think if I really understand what Jesus is saying here, I am still an 11th hour
Yeah.
person.
I I know I reference these all the time, but AA is the king of acronyms and
Hmm.
different things, but they compare kind of someone who got sober when they're 13 to someone who got sober when they're 60. They both have a yet, which stands for you're eligible too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you don't take any pride that you got sober when you're there. You're same playing field as this guy over here.
Because if I start to, as someone who came to faith at a young age, identify with the guy
Been there
who
since
starts
6
working at
a.m.
the first hour, then I'm starting to believe that I earned it.
Hmm.
Because that's the thing about the day laborer, right? I mean, I worked a whole day and I got a day's wage. I earned this.
Hmm.
But if you go a little bit deeper, I wonder how many, if any, of these guys really fully earned the denarius, because it doesn't seem like it was just like, oh, I've just got so much work
No.
here to do, and like, please, can you come help me, and I'll just give you this money because I desperately need the work. It just seems like that from the very beginning to the very end of the day, the owner of this vineyard is just a very
Which is
generous
why I said
guy.
he feels like a retired person.
Right. I
He's
didn't
not
like.
trying to crank out a big production line or anything like that. He's just got like
Yeah,
busy work to get done.
I'm just trying to make a lot of money and do all this
Yeah,
stuff, and so I can get even. He it feels like he is already rich,
right.
doesn't need more money,
Hmm.
and is just incredibly generous. And that even the person that came in early
Hmm.
didn't really.
He didn't need them as much as he didn't need the last person.
Right.
They're
And
not serving
and that
him.
even everybody's invitation to, air quotes, work in my vineyard
Yeah,
is a result of my generosity. I didn't need you here.
yeah.
It's not explicitly
Because if he's
stated.
that wealthy, he already had workers.
Yeah, it just feels like it is at least implied
Hmm.
that this guy was being generous the whole time.
They needed money more than he needed workers.
Right.
So we've this is I know he's talking to his disciples. Maybe Pharisees were there, but not. He's probably just talking to his
Yeah.
disciples. What would have there before this parable would have they assumed that like God is someone who only welcomes people who come early, or like what was their understanding of God before he lays out this parable?
The biggest thing that I think that they would have taken away from this is your favor with God is dependent exclusively on how hard you work and how faithful
Okay.
you are.
Okay.
And so someone who has been faithful to God for a longer period of time would have more favor with God than a tax collector who later in his life decided to turn his life around.
Yeah.
You know, they would have been the big shift for them would have been God's favor is not based on your effort, but on God's generosity.
Mhm.
I don't know that they would. I think it would have been It would have been mind blowing for them a little bit. The concept of a gracious, generous God.
Yeah.
Not that God was unkind or ungracious,
Mhm.
but he's an employer,
Yeah.
right? If back to, if you work a fast food job and they hire you for $10 an hour and you work 10 hours and you get $100, you don't think, man, McDonald's is really generous.
Right. You're like, no,
No,
I you paid what I was due.
we had a contract and we exchanged it.
Mhm.
You don't think bad about them,
Yeah.
and you're thankful for them for giving you a job.
Yeah.
But I earned that money. Give it to me,
Yeah.
right? There's no there. I worked hard and you paid me what I was owed.
Mhm.
You know, that's not a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be bad if you didn't pay what was owed.
Yeah.
If you gave more than that, that would be generous. I think that they thought of God as fair and someone who paid a fair
Right.
wage. And so I follow the law, I do all the things, and God will reward me
Mhm.
by giving me what is owed of someone who works this hard.
Yeah.
And for Jesus to say it's actually not that at all. In fact, what God gives is not based on how hard you work, but based
Mhm.
exclusively on his generosity.
Well, and it also, you can stop me if this is pushing the parable too far, but it's kind of an interesting paradigm shift. It keeps making me think of my grandpa, of like all the random activities of yard work that I would do. And I'd be like, I collected all the gumballs. And he'd
Mhm.
be like, I'm so glad you felt like I needed that. And I'd be like, ta-da! And it's almost like, what is actually, I mean, if you are working for someone who's in the prime of their industry life and they're trying to pump out whatever, they're fulfilled when they meet their quota of inventory or whatever.
Right.
But if you're just working for someone that's fulfilled when they get to be generous to someone, it doesn't matter the outcome or the hours put in. They were fulfilled by being able to be generous to someone.
Yeah, I think again at its core level, the disciples walk away from this with God's favor is based on his generosity, not how hard I work.
Mhm.
Right. That's it. But I think there is a depth and richness of this. I think this parable expands and unfolds a little bit once we understand the crucifixion and the
Mhm.
resurrection and what does it mean to really, yeah, I think this one just kind of blossoms a little bit. And we do understand that the invitation that God makes is not to work in his field.
Mhm.
The invitation is to experience his generosity and his
Mhm.
goodness. And so I don't think the disciples could have gotten there
Mhm.
at day one. At day one, it would have just been like they're just chewing over. Wait a second, though, but they didn't. These
Yeah.
people later in the day, they didn't earn it.
Right.
What do you mean they didn't? What do you mean they didn't earn it? Like I would have been, and Jesus. But I think it's one of these parables that over time we experience more depth and richness in
Mhm.
what he's talking about because we do live on the other end of seeing the gospel fully demonstrated
Yeah.
over Good Friday and Easter.
Mhm. Well, there's just so much of a vineyard owner or farm owner, whatever, that like the way to please them is to produce
Hmm.
and to earn whatever. But if there's no ability to produce enough, then how do you please them?
Yeah, I mean, so again, it's one of these things. It's almost like when we talk about, well, what does it mean to follow God, and as we're categorizing these parables, and maybe at some point we should go back and put them into one of these two categories. Some of them aren't just talking about different things, right? But it's like there's parable of the talents ones where it's
Mhm.
like God has an expectation of you, and then there's prodigal son,
It's
workers in
just
the vineyard, right?
union.
Where it's
Be with
just
me.
grace and goodness, and almost like this one bridges the gap a little bit.
I was thinking like if the disciples could just fuse those,
Yeah,
their brains would explode of
and
like, wait, he wants to spend time with us?
and this one kind of bridges both of
Yeah.
those. Hey, I'm inviting you into my generosity, but that generosity also
Yeah.
has some expectation to it,
Mhm.
which is different than, hey, just come on for the party. It's
Right.
just whatever, bro. But it's also different than what you get with God is what you earn.
Mhm.
And so again, I don't know how many steps along the disciples could have gotten in their, at least here, maybe after 20 or 30 years reflection and
Mhm.
them reading some of Paul's letters and being like,
This is crazy.
well, hold up now. Hold
Yeah.
up. Like they're slowly getting there, but I think
Yeah.
we have the ability to fully appreciate
Mhm.
what Jesus is saying. And I think when we do fully appreciate it, we all place ourselves in the 11th hour.
Yeah.
We don't think of 11th hour people as deathbed confessions. If anything, they are maybe 11:58,
Right.
but it's not, none of us
Yeah.
are people who were there first thing in the morning.
Early birds.
Those people, we recognize now that those people never existed, and to the degree that they think they existed, they were fooled by the fact that really it was about the generosity of the
Right.
vineyard, which why we kind of, if anybody added too much into the parable today, it was me, by saying I don't think but you did it too, so it was together. I don't know that this guy needed the work
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I think he was being generous all day long.
Mm-hmm. I just, the more we've done this series, I think always put it in context of who he's talking to has just like reiterated how much of an oral tradition they
Hmm.
were. So like it really was legit that they could have been laying in bed at night and be like, that was a weird story.
That was weird.
Yeah, like some things for us just go in and out because we have so much documented we can look
Right.
it up. But they really would have had those just like circling around in their mind and they could have meditated on that for who knows how long.
Right, and they're laying there by the campfire going to sleep and be like, okay, hold up now.
Yeah.
Jesus, I just want to make sure I understood that story you told. So he
You
paid
paid
them
them
all
the
the
same?
same?
Yeah. Where it really probably did unfold over time because they would just think about it and they were able to retain stories and pictures like that.
So that and so God what? God's like, what?
Yeah.
I would love those conversations to be recorded somewhere,
Yeah.
but they're intentionally not, and I understand
Say,
that. But
let's gather around the campfire and sing our campfire song.
I'm trying to remember why that was in my head the other day. I was singing that to Layla like day before yesterday. If you
It's a
don't think
banger.
that we can sing it louder, then you're wrong.
CAMBF.
Squidward. Oh, wow. What an end to an incredible podcast. So we will continue our series. We got some other good ones coming up over the next couple of weeks. And thank you so much, Abigail Bagel Boone, for joining us and being here with us. Thank you also for joining us, and encourage you to keep coming back, and encourage you to be a part of our church. If you are not connected to our church, but you would like to be, you can find us at thegrovechurch.org. You go to the Connect page. You can find out about streaming our service, joining us in person if you live locally. There's also a little form you can fill out. You can ask questions, any ways that we can help you. We would love to know that. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Cultivate podcast. Our hope is that you are taking steps to go deeper in your faith, that you are asking big questions and you're looking for answers. We hope that we can be a resource for you through our podcast and any other way that we can help you. You can find all our episodes anywhere that you can find podcasts, including YouTube. And again, thank you so much for joining us.